Nneka shifted the load in her hands as she walked back from the market, her slippers raising small clouds of dust behind her. The sun was still high, burning her skin, and her wrapper clung uncomfortably to her waist. She was tired, not just in her body, but in her thoughts. She kept calculating how to manage the little money left in her pocket, already deciding what would have to wait till another day. Life had taught her how to stretch small things. She was close to the bend in the road when she sensed she was not alone. At first, it was only a sound, a weak cough, followed by a low groan. Nneka slowed her steps. Her heart beat faster. This part of the road was quiet, almost forgotten, and elders often warned young women not to linger there. She remembered their voices clearly. Some paths are not empty even when no one is seen. Then she saw him. The man sat by the roadside under a mango tree that looked as tired as he was. His body was thin, almost fragile, and his clothes were torn, dirty, and hanging loosely on him. His legs were stretched out, unmoving, and his head drooped forward like someone who had lost strength to hold it up. His beard was unkempt, his skin dry, and his eyes looked hollow. Nneka stopped walking. Fear crept into her chest quietly. Many people had passed this road earlier. She could tell from the footprints in the dust. Nobody had stopped. Her first instinct was to turn back or cross to the other side. Stories rushed into her mind, stories of strangers who were not what they seem, of people who helped once and never returned the same. "Please," the man said suddenly, lifting his head with great effort. "My daughter, help me." His voice was weak, cracked, and dry. It did not carry force, it carried hunger. Nneka's fingers tightened around her bag. She looked left and right. The road was silent. No one else was in sight. Her mother's warnings echoed in her ears, loud and clear. Do not follow strange people. Do not bring unknown problems into your house. She took one step forward, then stopped. What if it is a trick? Her mind asked. The man swallowed and spoke again. I have not eaten since yesterday. Even water, I have none. She looked at his hands. They were trembling. She looked at his lips. They were dry and cracked. This was not acting. This was weakness, real weakness. Something inside her heart shifted. Before fear could stop her, Nneka dropped her bag on the ground and walked closer. She bent slightly and stretched out her hand. Can you stand? She asked softly. The man stared at her hand for a moment as if unsure it was real. Slowly, he placed his hand in hers. His palm was rough and cold. When he tried to stand, his legs shook violently and he almost fell. Nneka quickly supported him, placing his arm over her shoulder. My compound is not far. You cannot stay here. Each step felt heavy as she helped him walk. Her heart beat fast, not because of his weight, but because of the fear walking beside her. Still, she did not let go. She focused on moving forward, refusing to look back. When they reached her compound, relief washed over her. No one was home. She guided the man to a wooden bench and asked him to sit. He obeyed immediately, breathing hard. She brought out a bowl of water. The man drank as if he had been waiting for it all his life. Water spilled down his chin and his hands shook as he held the bowl. Nneka watched him carefully, alert to every movement. Nothing strange happened. She warmed leftover food and placed it before him. At first, he ate slowly, almost cautiously, then faster, like someone afraid the food would disappear if he delayed. The silence between them felt heavy, but not dangerous. Thank you, he murmured, his voice steadier now. Nneka nodded, saying nothing. After he finished eating, she reached into her wrapper and pulled out her money. It was not much, but it was all she had saved for the next day. She placed it gently in his hand. Use this to continue your journey. Go home safely. The man froze. He stared at the money, then lifted his eyes to her face. His expression changed, no longer weak, no longer empty. Something deep stared behind his eyes. He stood up straighter as if strength had returned to his bones. "My daughter," he said slowly, "many people saw me today and turned away. You did not." Nneka felt uneasy. "It is nothing," she replied quickly. "Please go." But the man did not move. He studied her face with careful attention, as if committing every detail to memory. The air around them felt different, heavy, quiet. "You showed me love when I had nothing. You fed me when hunger almost ended me. You gave when you yourself have little." His voice dropped lower. "Listen to me," he said, stepping closer. "I will never forget this." A strange chill ran through Nneka's body. "As long as I live," he added, each word measured, "your kindness will stand before you. What you have done today will speak for you in places you cannot see." The words felt heavier than gratitude. They felt like a vow. Before Nneka could respond, the man turned and walked away, disappearing down the road as quietly as he had appeared. Nneka stood there, unable to move, her heart beating loudly in her ears. That night, Nneka slept deeply, unaware that something unseen had taken her name and sealed it in the spirit world. Far away, a promise had been made, and it would not be forgotten. Good news has a way of running faster than bad news. It began as a whisper near the village well and spread like harmattan fire. By evening, everyone knew. A wealthy man from a neighboring town had sent his people to ask for Nneka's hand in marriage. He was said to be successful, respected, and generous. Elders nodded when his name was mentioned. Women smiled knowingly. Men spoke of bride price and connections. When Nneka heard it, she was stunned. She sat quietly in her mother's room, her hands folded in her lap, listening as her parents spoke excitedly. Her mother laughed softly, thanking God again and again. Her father cleared his throat proudly, reminding her that blessings do not announce themselves before arriving. Nneka's heart felt full but calm. She was grateful, yes, but not restless. Something inside her felt settled, as if her life had been gently pushed onto the right path. She remembered the stranger briefly, then shook the thought away. Life had moved on. The village did not wait. Women arrived with smiles and laughter, tapping her shoulders, praising her beauty and humility. Elders stopped by to ask questions and give advice. Children sang teasing songs about marriage and motherhood. Her compound became lively again, filled with noise and joy. But not all hearts celebrated. Amara heard the news while plaiting a customer's hair. Her hands froze mid-braid. The laughter around her sounded far away, as if she had been dropped into deep water. She forced a smile when others congratulated her friend, but something tight and painful twisted in her chest. That night, Amara could not sleep. She lay on her mat, staring at the roof, listening to the sound of crickets outside. Her thoughts refused to rest. She remembered the day she and Nneka had promised each other they would marry around the same time. She remembered laughing about it, swearing they would not allow one to pass the other. We grew up together, she thought bitterly. We suffered together. Why her first? In the following days, she visited Nneka often, smiling, helping, laughing loudly. To anyone watching, nothing had changed, but inside her, something dark was growing quietly, fed by comparison and silent anger. Flashbacks visited her without warning. She remembered the days they fetched water together, balancing buckets on their heads. The days they sat under the tree, sharing roasted corn and dreams of the future. Nneka had always been kind, always gentle, always satisfied with little. Amara had always wanted more. Each congratulation she heard felt like a slap. Each praise of Nneka's character burned her ears. At night, she argued with herself, telling herself to be happy for her friend, reminding herself that envy was dangerous. But jealousy is patient. One evening, Amara overheard two women talking. "That girl is lucky," one said. "Kindness follows her everywhere." Yes, the other replied. Some people are protected by what they do without knowing. The words pierced Amara's heart. Protected, she thought. By what? That night, her dreams were troubled. She saw Nneka standing in light while she herself stood in shadow. She woke up sweating, her heart racing. Days passed. Marriage preparations began. Elders fixed dates. Gifts arrived. The sound of celebration drums filled the air sometimes. Amara watched everything like someone watching a play from behind a curtain. She tried praying. She tried fasting. She tried ignoring the thoughts. They refused to leave. Instead, they grew teeth. One afternoon, an old woman passed by Amara and paused suddenly. She looked at her carefully, her eyes sharp and knowing. Guard your heart, the old woman said quietly. Jealousy opens doors that should never be opened. Amara laughed it off, but fear crept into her chest. That night, she made up her mind. If life would not give her what she wanted, she would take it. She waited until the village slept. Quietly, she packed a small bag, clothes, food, and something precious. From under her mat, she pulled out Nneka's picture, folded carefully. She stared at it for a long time, her hands shaking. I just want things to change, she whispered, though her heart knew it was a lie. She wrapped the picture carefully and hid it inside her bag. As she stepped out into the darkness, the wind blew strangely, rustling the trees like warning whispers. Dogs barked in the distance. Her heart pounded, but she did not turn back. She was traveling to a place elders spoke of only in low voices, a place where wishes were answered, but never for free. By dawn, Amara was already far from home, and behind her, something ancient had begun to move. Amara did not look back when she left. The night still clung to the earth, thick and cold, as she walked away from her village with a small bag slung over her shoulder. The moon hid behind clouds, and the path ahead was barely visible. Each step she took felt heavy, as if the ground itself was resisting her decision. Still, she moved forward, guided by anger, jealousy, and a dangerous hope. By morning, she had reached the first junction. She paused there, breathing hard, watching the road split into two. One path led toward familiar towns, full of people and safety. The other was narrow, bushy, and almost forgotten. Elders often spoke of it in warnings. That road leads to places where prayers are swallowed, they would say. Amara chose the narrow path. As she walked, memories of elders' voices followed her like shadows. She remembered sitting as a child, listening to stories told by firelight. Stories of native doctors who spoke to spirits like neighbors. Stories of people who went seeking help and returned broken or never returned at all. She shook her head. It is only stories, she muttered. But her heart beat faster. The road grew worse. Thorns scratched her legs. Tall trees blocked the sun, making the air damp and heavy. At some point, the silence became uncomfortable. No birds sang, no insects chirped. Even her footsteps sounded too loud. She passed a small stream and remembered another warning. Do not cross unknown waters when your heart is dirty. She hesitated, then crossed anyway, lifting her wrapper cheerfully. By midday, hunger and fear walked beside her. She stopped under a tree to rest, but sleep refused to come. Each time she closed her eyes, she saw Nneka's face, calm, glowing, surrounded by praise. Her hands clenched. Why must it always be her? She whispered. As the sun began to fall, Amara finally reached the edge of the distant village. It was quieter than she expected. Houses stood apart, as if afraid of each other. People moved quickly, avoiding eye contact. Nobody greeted her. She knew she had arrived at the right place. An old man selling palm wine watched her approach. His eyes narrowed. You are far from home, he said. I am looking for someone, Amara replied, forcing confidence into her voice. The man shook his head slowly. What you are looking for may cost you more than you have. Amara did not answer. She walked past him. The shrine stood at the far end of the village, hidden behind tall trees. The air there felt different, thick, heavy, pressing against her skin. Strange objects hung from branches, feathers, bones, carved wood. The smell of herbs and smoke filled her nose. Her courage began to fail her. She stood at the entrance, her feet refusing to move. Her heart raced wildly. Every warning she ever heard screamed inside her head. Turn back now, they said. Not every problem is meant to be solved. But her heart pushed her forward. Inside the shrine, it was dim. Candles flickered weakly. The walls were covered with symbols she did not understand. A man sat in the center, tall and thin, his face half hidden in shadow. His beard was long and grey, his eyes sharp and unsettling. He did not look at her immediately. "Why have you come?" he asked calmly. Amara swallowed. Her throat felt dry. "I need help." "There is always a price," the man replied. She nodded. "I am ready." The man finally raised his head. His eyes met hers, and Amara felt like he could see through her, into her thoughts, into her envy. "Bring what you came with," he said. Her hands trembled as she opened her bag. For a moment, she hesitated. This was the last chance to turn back. Fear and jealousy wrestled inside her. Jealousy won. Slowly, she reached inside and brought out the folded picture. The moment the native doctor's eyes fell on it, the candles flickered violently. His hands began to shake, and the silence in the shrine deepened. The picture slipped slightly from Amara's fingers, but the native doctor caught it before it touched the ground. The moment his eyes settled fully on the image, the air inside the shrine changed. The candles hissed as if water had been poured on their flames. One went out, then another. A cold wind rushed through the room, even though the entrance was still closed. The man's hands trembled violently, his fingers tightening around the picture as if it had burned him. "No," he whispered. Amara's heart slammed against her chest. What is wrong?" she asked, her voice shaking. The man stood up suddenly, so fast that Amara stepped back in fear. His stool fell behind him with a loud thud. He stared at the picture again, his breathing heavy, his eyes wide with shock and something close to pain. "This cannot be coincidence," he said slowly. He lifted his face toward the ceiling, murmuring words Amara did not understand. The walls seemed to respond. Shadows danced wildly, stretching and shrinking like living things. Fear wrapped itself tightly around Amara's heart. "You said you were ready to pay," the native doctor said, his voice now deep and cold. "But some prices are not accepted by the spirits." He turned the picture toward her. "Do you know who this woman is?" Amara nodded quickly. "She is the one I want gone," she said, forcing the words out. "Her name is Nneka." The man's body stiffened. "Nneka," he repeated quietly. He closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, something had changed. His calm was gone. In its place was a storm. "This woman," he said, pointing at the picture, "fed me when I was dying." Amara froze. "She gave me water when my strength failed. She helped me stand when my legs could not carry me. She gave me money when she herself had little." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. The man laughed bitterly. "You see me now and think I have always been like this. You do not know how close I was to death that day." He stepped closer, his eyes burning into hers. "I was the stranger by the road." Amara's knees buckled. She fell to the ground. "No," she whispered. That is not possible." "It is," he replied sharply. "I walk among spirits, but even I am bound by laws. The spirit world does not forget kindness." He paced slowly like a predator. "There are rules older than shrines and stronger than curses. When a human shows pure kindness without knowing who they help, the spirits mark that act." Amara shook uncontrollably. "I did not know. I was only angry. I was only jealous." The native doctor stopped pacing. "Jealousy," he said calmly, "is one of the fastest doors to destruction." He knelt slightly, bringing his face close to hers. "Listen carefully. If you had brought any other picture, the spirits would have answered you. but this woman's name is already written in protection. He stood up straight. If harm touches her, he said slowly, each word heavy, it will not rest until it finds the hand that sent it. Amara's breath came in short gasps. Please, she begged, I will take it back. I will forget everything. The man's eyes darkened. It is not that simple, he replied. He raised the picture again. The candles flared back to life suddenly, burning brighter than before. The symbols on the walls glowed faintly. Amara screamed as a sharp pain pierced her chest. Something unseen rushed through the room. The native doctor shouted words of command, slamming his staff against the ground. The floor vibrated. The air screamed. Amara felt a cold grip wrap around her heart. Her vision blurred. She collapsed, choking. The man moved quickly, drawing a line in the dust with his staff. Leave, he commanded. Return to where you came from. The pressure lifted slightly, enough for Amara to breathe. He turned to her, her face hard. This is your warning. The curse you tried to release has already tasted your scent. Fear flooded her completely. If you ever raise your hand again against this woman, he said, his voice like iron, the spirit will not need my permission. Amara scrambled to her feet, sobbing. She dropped the picture and ran, not caring where she stepped. She burst out of the shrine, the sound of her feet echoing wildly. Behind her, the native doctor watched silently. As Amara ran through the darkening village, her chest burned. Her heart pounded painfully, as if something was chasing her from the inside. Far away in her own village, Nneka suddenly paused while washing her hands. A strange chill passed through her body. She looked around uneasy, unaware that death had come close and turned away. But something had already been set in motion, and it was not finished. Nneka begins to experience strange dreams. The dreams began quietly. At first, Nneka dismissed them as ordinary dreams, the kind that came after long days and tired bodies. But after the third night, she knew something was wrong. She would sleep deeply, only to wake suddenly with her heart pounding, her wrapper soaked with sweat. In the dreams, she stood on the same road where she once met the stranger. The road was empty, stretching endlessly, and the air felt heavy. Each time, someone stood behind her, close enough to breathe on her neck, yet whenever she turned, nothing was there. She stopped telling herself it was nothing. One night, she dreamed of water, dark water swirling around her feet, pulling her gently but firmly. As she struggled to move, a voice whispered her name, not angrily, not kindly, but with demand. She woke up gasping, her chest tight, her mouth dry. By morning, unease followed her like a shadow. Her mother noticed first. You look thin, she said, studying Nneka closely. Are you eating well? I am fine, Nneka replied, forcing a smile. But she was not. Small things began to feel wrong. Plates fell from her hands for no reason. She forgot simple things. Sometimes she would be sitting quietly and feel a sudden cold pass through her body, like someone walking through her. The elders noticed too. During an evening meeting, one of the oldest men paused suddenly and frowned. There is movement, he said quietly. The air is not resting. Others murmured in agreement. An old woman shook her head slowly. Something is walking, she whispered. Something unseen. The elders sent for Nneka. She stood before them respectfully, her head bowed. They asked questions about her health, her dreams, her recent encounters. When she mentioned the stranger by the road, several elders exchanged looks. Kindness opens doors, one elder said thoughtfully, both good and bad. Another elder added, but kindness also creates protection. They ordered prayers, early morning prayers, evening prayers. They asked her parents to make small sacrifices, kola nuts, palm wine, cooked food, placed respectfully at the family's ancestral corner, not to feed fear, but to strengthen peace. Warnings followed. Do not walk alone at night, an elder told Nneka. Do not answer your name if you hear it called when no one is there. Nneka listened carefully, fear sitting quietly in her heart. Meanwhile, Amara was not sleeping at all. She returned to the village broken and shaken. Every sound made her jump. Every shadow looked alive. At night, she felt something press against her chest, squeezing gently but firmly, reminding her of the shrine. She dreamt of fire and eyes watching her in the dark. Guilt wrapped around her like chains. She avoided Nneka. When she did see her from afar, her heart twisted painfully. She wanted to confess, to scream the truth, but fear sealed her lips. One night, Amara heard a whisper near her ear. "You called me," the voice said softly. She screamed and woke the entire compound. Her mother held her tightly, confused and frightened. "What did you see?" she asked. "Nothing," Amara sobbed. "Nothing." But it was not nothing. Back in Nneka's dreams, the voice returned, clearer now. "There must be balance," it said. She woke up crying. The elders gathered again, this time more troubled. One elder spoke in a low voice. "When protection is activated, something else follows. The spirit world does not like imbalance." Another elder nodded slowly. "A debt is moving." Nneka sat quietly, her hands shaking. Far away, in his hidden shrine, the native doctor stood before his altar, his face serious. He spoke softly to the spirit, his voice heavy with concern. "She showed kindness without knowing," he said. "Do not demand more than what was given." The flames flickered violently. Back in the village, the wind rose suddenly, scattering leaves across the ground. Dogs howled without reason. Nneka clutched her chest as a sharp pain struck her heart. Somewhere unseen, something ancient stirred, and it was asking to be settled. The days leading to the wedding were filled with noise and color. Drums echoed across the village from morning till night. Women moved in and out of Nneka's compound, carrying baskets, fabrics, and gifts. Laughter floated in the air, mixed with songs that spoke of love, blessings, and new beginnings. To everyone watching, joy had fully returned. But beneath the celebration, something dark watched silently. Nneka tried to focus on the happiness around her, yet unease sat quietly in her chest. The dreams had not stopped. Each night, she felt the presence again, closer now, heavier. Still, she followed the elders' instructions carefully, praying at dawn and at night, avoiding lonely paths. Amara watched everything from a distance. She stood at the edge of the crowd, smiling when necessary, clapping when expected. Inside her, her heart was breaking. Guilt weighed on her heavily. Each song sounded like accusation. Each drumbeat reminded her of the shrine, the warning, the pain in her chest. I should tell her, she thought again and again. I should confess. But fear held her back. What if the spirits turned fully against her? What if speaking the truth made everything worse? The questions crushed her courage. On the eve of the wedding, the elders gathered again. Their faces were tense. "The air is still restless," one said. "Something is waiting." They instructed Nneka's family to make final prayers and offerings, not out of fear, but respect. A pot of cooked food was placed outside at night. Palm wine was poured carefully onto the earth. Names of ancestors were called softly. That night, the village slept uneasily. Just before dawn, Nneka woke suddenly, her heart racing. The room felt cold, too cold. She tried to call her mother, but her voice refused to come out. She felt pressure on her chest, heavier than before. A shadow moved near the doorway. Her eyes widened in terror. The shadow did not enter, but it stood there, tall and silent, like it was waiting for permission. Far away, the stranger, the native doctor, opened his eyes suddenly in his shrine. He felt the disturbance immediately. He rose from his mat, grabbed his staff, and spoke sharply into the air. "No," he commanded, "not tonight." He drew symbols on the ground and struck the earth. The flames around him roared. Back in Nneka's room, the shadow hesitated. Nneka gasped as the pressure lifted slightly. She began to breathe again. Tears rolled down her face as she whispered prayers. Outside, a sudden gust of wind slammed the door shut. The shadow faded. Morning came with relief, but not peace. The wedding day arrived. Nneka was dressed beautifully, her face glowing despite the exhaustion in her eyes. Drums beat louder than ever. The village gathered, joyful and excited. Laughter filled the compound. Amara stood among the crowd, her heart pounding violently. She felt it again, that squeezing pressure. The warning echoed in her head. Death is close. As the ceremony began, the air thickened. Nneka suddenly stumbled. Gasps filled the crowd. She clutched her chest, her face pale. The drums faltered. Panic rippled through the people. At the doorway of the compound, the air darkened briefly. Unseen, something waited. In his shrine, the stranger raised his staff one final time, sweat dripping down his face. He said firmly, "She has paid her price in kindness. Take nothing more." Nneka collapsed into her mother's arms, but did not lose consciousness. The pressure lifted. The drums resumed slowly, but Amara knew. Whatever had been waiting had not fully gone. It had only stepped back, and it was still watching the doorway. The drums slowed, then steadied. Nneka sat upright again, supported by her mother and aunties. Her breathing was shallow, but she was awake. Murmurs filled the compound as people whispered prayers and questions. Some said it was excitement, others said it was exhaustion, but the elders did not speak. They watched quietly, their eyes sharp, their faces unreadable. Amara stood frozen among the crowd. Her heart was beating so hard she feared it would tear her chest open. She knew what had almost happened. She could feel it deep inside her bones. Death had come close, so close it had touched the doorway and paused. And it was because of her. As the ceremony continued, Nneka was led gently to her seat. The marriage rites were completed slowly, carefully, with extra prayers added between steps. The elders poured libation again, calling on ancestors to stand guard. Each word carried weight. When the final blessings were spoken, a strange calm settled over the compound. The air felt lighter. Somewhere far away, in his hidden shrine, the stranger lowered his staff. His shoulders sagged slightly, as if a heavy load had finally been lifted. He closed his eyes and whispered softly, "It is finished." Back in the village, the celebration resumed, but something had changed. Amara could not celebrate. She slipped away quietly and sat behind an old hut shaking. Tears rolled freely down her face. The memories of the shrine, the warning, the pain in her chest, all returned at once. She pressed her hands to her ears as if she could shut them out. She knew she would never know peace again. Later that evening, when the crowd had thinned, one of the elders sent for Amara. Her heart dropped. She walked slowly, her legs weak, expecting anger, punishment, or exposure. When she reached the elders' gathering place, she knelt immediately, her head bowed, her body trembling. The eldest man studied her for a long moment. "You walked close to fire, and you returned smelling of smoke." Amara broke down completely. "I was jealous," she cried. "I wanted what she had. I went to seek help I should never have sought." The elders sighed softly, not in shock, but in sadness. "We know," the elder replied. "The spirit world speaks. It does not hide its footsteps." Amara looked up, hope and fear battling in her eyes. "Will I die?" she whispered. The elder shook his head slowly. "No, but you will carry this weight for the rest of your life." He stood up, leaning on his staff. "You planned evil in silence, but kindness spoke louder than your plans. The spirit recognized a pure act and stood in its defense." Amara's shoulders shook as she sobbed. "You will live," the elder continued, "but you will never forget how close you came to destroying yourself. Fear will be your punishment. Memory will be your guard." Amara bowed low, unable to speak. That night, Nneka slept peacefully for the first time in months. She dreamt of the road again, but this time it was bright. The stranger stood far away, nodding once, then turning and walking into light. No fear followed her, no voice demanded anything. By morning, the strange heaviness was gone. Days turned into weeks. Life settled into a new rhythm. Nneka moved to her husband's home, carrying laughter and kindness with her as she always had. She never knew the full danger she had escaped, and she never needed to. Amara changed. She became quieter, humbler. She avoided envy and sharp words. When jealousy tried to rise in her heart, fear crushed it immediately. She lived long, but never free. Years later, elders would tell the story to children sitting around the fire. They would say, "Do not mock small kindness. Do not underestimate simple goodness." And they would end with the lesson, spoken slowly, clearly, so it would never be forgotten. Kindness done in secret can become a shield against unseen danger. Evil planned in silence always finds its way back to the sender. And so the story was passed on from mouth to mouth, from generation to generation, as a warning and a blessing.